I'll start. I'm going to start the screen, start the presentation right away,
Okay,
and I'll I'll show my face at the end.
fine, sure. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the session on One Step at a Time. This is a Nirmaan webinar series. So I'm very happy to bring back Shiva Subramaniam, who previously talked to us about creativity and how to do customer discovery using many innovative methods. So in this particular episode, we would like to introduce a rather interesting concept called as biomimicry. And most of you would have heard about the term and would have been familiar with a lot of examples where nature has inspired design, both in terms of engineering and social, many aspects of design where inspiration can be drawn from nature. So with that theme, Shiva, Professor Shiva Kumar from Dean Students Office and myself, we have started looking at how biomimicry can be integrated with the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem at IIT Madras. Towards that, we are launching a course called as ID 5200 next semester, which will introduce biomimicry to the students at large. But in this particular session, we would like to present to you the various tenets and concepts in a very brief fashion. At the same time, we would also like to set up a small club which is focused towards applying and understanding the principles of biomimicry to various common problems. So towards that, we would like to say, not leave it at just a talk right now, but also go forward and form a small group of students who are interested in taking it forward. So of course, we have a lot of material and we are very interested and excited about this whole new field, which Shiva will be talking about a lot, but we would like you all to have a glimpse of it and then further on work with us to promote this as much as possible. Thank you, and Shiva, the floor is yours.
yeah. Thanks, Satya. It's always exciting. I can see some I can see some illustrious people here. I can see Raghu. Hi, Raghu. Um, I can see Mr. Savio. And I've heard about you. I haven't met you, and so I'm very honored that all of you are here. And all right, so I'm going to jump straight in. I'm going to be presenting for 1 hour exactly, so which means around 5-ish I should stop, so you know how much time we have. And so going back to why this initiative, this particular talk, the idea of this talk happened just 2 days ago. Ashwath called me and said, I had already done a program for Nirmaan, all of you know, and Ashwath called me and said, can you talk about something? Now, this something is something that I didn't want to do. I said, let me try and find out what is it that I'm most interested in right now. And like Satya told you, Satya, me and Shiva, we've been having this conversation. I have been building my dream towards biomimicry. I read about this about 2 months ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. For me, the context of today is very, very important from a dream point of view, from a what I should do in my life point of view, what meaning my life must take point of view, right? And therefore, I put a lot of intentions into this, and Shiva, I and Satya were speaking about it, and I said, why don't we float a program? We actually floated a course next semester, which many of you will know of very, very soon. And it's called the Biomimicry Program. We've got Senate approval and all that. Everything is done. So that is as far as the course is concerned. You also know that I'm working in GDC. I'm working with Raghu. And one of the challenges that we have in GDC is how do we take deep tech to the market, right? And I was looking at all the subjects, and suddenly I said, lo and behold, right in front of me, there is biomimicry, which is deep tech. I mean, come on, you can't ask for a better lab to market process than biomimicry to entrepreneurship. Because whatever you people from, when you learn the next 1 hour, whatever you pick up from biomimicry is something that happens in the lab. So therefore, I'm very interested in intersection. So I said, let me see if we can intersect biomimicry and entrepreneurship and what we get. So what is happening today is the result of that intersection. I'm not promising myself anything. I'm playing by the year, and I'm saying, let me see what happens. Which is why I called Satya in the morning and I said, Satya, many times these questions, these initiatives and these talks end up as just talks, right? What happens at the end of 1 hour? Nothing. So I told Satya that at the beginning of the lecture, we will set the context saying at the end of this, we want a community. We want a community in IIT Madras around biomimicry, not necessarily entrepreneurship. Why I am saying that, I will come to it. So we want people to start getting in biomimicry, and that can branch into entrepreneurship. We're also planning to hold a biomimicry challenge, right? We're also taking biomimicry to schools, because for me that's a big dream. I need to put biomimicry in the curriculum of schools, because I think this is the future. So that is the context, right? So I have a presentation. So forgive me if my talk is not as much about biomimicry as much as it is about inspiration. So I'm dividing my talk into 2 parts. One is inspiration, because that's what this whole session is. At the end of 1 hour, I want you to register for that community that we are building. And of course, a little of biomimicry also here. So for those of you in the audience who know biomimicry very well, forgive me, because I'm not going to go deep into biomimicry today. But when we do the program, we will. All right. So this is the first slide, biomimicry and entrepreneurship. And I'm saying the intersection between technology and nature, right? Now, normally I should have started straight with biomimicry. I'm not going to do that, because for me, this is about inspiration, right? For me, this is about saying, you see, in my life, it's a little late in my life to say, what is the meaning of my life? But I don't know, I probably have started very late, but I don't want you people to lose the chance of looking at meaning in your life. And I am just gambling here, right? I am thinking that the meaning of your life lies in biomimicry. Don't say yes or no right away. Think about what I'm saying, and then let's look at the answer. Therefore, my first slide is nothing to do with biomimicry. It's about your story. Every one of us in this room, everyone who is attending here, every one of us is our story, right? Our story is what we make out of it, what we make out of our lives. And I have this brilliant book called A Hero's Journey, where he says every one of us is a hero. Everyone in this room, everyone who is listening now is a hero. You have gone through your trials and tribulations. You have had your failures. You will have your failures. You will have your successes. What is the story that you're going to build? So I have for you a very short 3-minute video, which traces the story of every one of us. And when you look at the video, you will identify yourself. And I want you to look at biomimicry and entrepreneurship in the context of who you want to be in this world, not as a separate, disparate subject, but what can entrepreneurship and biomimicry combined together do for me in my life? How can I build my story out of my life? And all of us are responsible for our own stories. So here's the video.
What do Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo all have in common with the heroes of ancient myths? What if I told you they are all variants of the same hero? Do you believe that? Joseph Campbell did. He studied myths from all over the world and published a book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces, retelling dozens of stories and explaining how each represents the monomyth or hero's journey. So, what is the hero's journey? Think of it as a cycle. The journey begins and ends in the hero's ordinary world, but the quest passes through an unfamiliar, special world. Along the way, there are some key events. Think about your favorite book or movie. Does it follow this pattern? Status quo, that's where we start. 1 o'clock, call to adventure. The hero receives a mysterious message, an invitation, a challenge. 2 o'clock, Assistance. The hero needs some help, probably from someone older, wiser. 3 o'clock. Departure. The hero crosses the threshold from his normal, safe home and enters the special world and adventure. We're not in Kansas anymore. 4 o'clock. Trials. Being a hero is hard work. Our hero solves a riddle, slays a monster, escapes from a trap. 5 o'clock. Approach. It's time to face the biggest ordeal, the hero's worst fear. 6 o'clock. Crisis. This is the hero's darkest hour. He faces death and possibly even dies, only to be reborn. 7 o'clock. Treasure. As a result, the hero claims some treasure, special recognition, or power. 8 o'clock. Result. This can vary between stories. Do the monsters bow down before the hero, or do they chase him as he flees from the special world? 9 o'clock. Return. After all that adventure, the hero returns to his ordinary world. 10 o'clock. New life. This quest has changed the hero. He has outgrown his old life. 11 o'clock. Resolution. All the tangled plot lines get straightened out. 12 o'clock. Status quo, but upgraded to a new level. Nothing is quite the same once you're a hero. Many popular books and movies follow this ancient formula pretty closely, but let's see how well The Hunger Games fits the hero's journey template. When does Katniss Everdeen hear a call to adventure that gets the story moving? When her sister's name is called from the lottery. How about assistance? Is anyone going to help her on her adventure? Hey, Mitch. What about departure? Does she leave her ordinary world? She gets on a train to the capital. Okay, so you get the idea. What do you have in common with Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo?
Yeah. Can you see the PowerPoint again?
Yes.
Yeah. So you saw that, right? And now I'm sure every one of you was looking at the video and saying, what is my story? And entrepreneurship is that story. Entrepreneurship is a very brave decision that you take to create your own story. I'm not saying anything else is less important, but entrepreneurship has that magic that helps you create your own story. That's the inspiration I wanted. Let me go to the next slide then. Let me get to...
So, Shiva, your slide is not visible. Maybe it is for me. Can anybody else see the slide?
It's visible.
It's visible, sir.
Okay, fine.
It's fine, Satya.
Can you see this now, Ashwath?
It's fine, Satya. Just
yeah, I can see it. Basics
make
of
it full screen.
Basic principle.
All right. So
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm going to talk very briefly about creativity, right? So creativity is willingness, and I think when you heard me last time, all of us agreed that the only thing that stops us from being creative is our willingness to be creative. You know, this is very strange. Books on creativity say all sorts of things, but every one of them say the same thing. If you're not willing to be creative, you can't. So the question you have to ask yourself right now is, am I willing to join that community at the end of this? Second is experimentation. A creative person, creativity is about constantly experiment. Therefore, I'm not even going to talk about failure, because automatically experiment means failure or success. Doesn't matter. We're not even talking about the results right now. Possibility is such a powerful word, right? Look at the present day. All of us are waiting for a vaccine, and the possibility of a vaccine is what we are looking at. And there are 110 companies in the world or more who are looking at the possibility of a vaccine, the possibility of a new tomorrow. So possibility is one of those very powerful words in creativity, and that's the basic principle. Locus of control. Creativity helps you on, so there are two types of looking at control, right? One is locus of control is within myself, the locus of control is outside me. A person who says, I failed in my exam because my teacher didn't teach me well. I failed in my exam because of this, looking at locus of control outside of himself. But the ideal locus of control is to be saying, I am the master of my destiny. I am the architect of my future. And creativity helps you understand locus of control, saying you are the master of your own destiny because you create your own future. Sense of adventure, go back to Columbus, my favorite example, right? Now, Columbus had no business to do. He could have sat back in wherever he was and not even bothered about discovering anything new. But what did he do? He took a risk to his life and his reputation, went and begged the queen to give him money and 10 ships. Then he, simply because he believed there was land. Imagine if he hadn't done that, we would still be sitting in our own small villages. Possibility of return. And this is what is brilliant about creativity, right? Because you don't know what you'll come back with. In entrepreneurship, it's similar. You don't know whether you will discover the customer or not. And the possibility of returning empty, if all of us have the heart to follow something, saying, I can return empty-handed, then we are on the right track. So that's as far as creativity is concerned. Let's look at entrepreneurship. Basic, okay? Basic. I'm not going to get into my usual lean and all that. So basic, combination of two worlds, my world and the other world. Right? I am straddling two worlds here. Second, a combination of I am altruistic because which is where you have to link biomimicry, right? Altruistic because I want to help other people. I want to help nature. I want to learn from nature. I'm also selfish because I want to make money for myself. I want to grow. I want to make wealth for myself. I want my parents to live well. I want to buy a car. I want to buy a BMW. Therefore, there's a lot of selfishness over here. Again, sense of it. Look at now the link between creativity and entrepreneurship, right? Sense of adventure. Search for a business. So you're looking for a business. You're looking, saying, can I do business here? Can I do business there? Again, possibility of returning empty-handed. Look at the parallels now. And now this is what we do in GDC, right? I mean, you must have heard about this millions of times. Raghu and I have been going all over the campus talking about lab to market, lab to market, lab to market, because we are saying that what happens in the lab sometimes stays in the lab. Can it actually find its place outside the lab? It's very, very basic way of looking at the lab to market. Now go back to yourselves. Most of you are in Nirmaan, or maybe not in Nirmaan, but some of you are. Now, what is Nirmaan? Nirmaan is an entrepreneurship place, right? You come with an idea. You can also come. So therefore, lab to market makes so much sense. If you go to biomimicry, you will see how. Because you are the inventor and you are the entrepreneur. Instead of taking someone else's idea, you say, this is my idea, I have invented. But inventor is not some non-deep tech idea, because everything about biomimicry you will learn is about deep tech. So tell me, biomimicry and entrepreneurship is automatically, therefore, a lab to market process. I discovered this about 10 minutes ago while I was thinking about the presentation. What else do we need in our lab to market journey except to look at biomimicry? Because everything about biomimicry is deep tech. Whatever I get out of biomimicry, and if I want to commercialize it, it is deep tech, it is lab to market. So I become an inventor and an entrepreneur in one. So now this is I'm not going to get heavy on this, but just remember, please, it's important for you to learn. 3 types of innovation: sustaining innovation. Every one of us knows this. Improves efficiency and prolongs the life of existing systems. Disruptive. This is something is my favorite topic. I have a lot of tools for disruptive innovation. I have been practicing disruptive innovation for God knows how long. Shakes things up. There are some brilliant tools in lateral thinking to actually deliberately disrupt things. What I'm really interested in today, and I discovered this word when I was reading biomimicry, is transformative innovation. With the longer term aspiration, it is possible to disrupt with the purpose, shifting the whole system over time to a new viable pattern. What are we doing with biomimicry is we are shifting the entire pattern. We are changing everything around us to fit a future, because the future needs biomimicry. If you don't do biomimicry, then most of us, most of the world, most of the natural systems that we know is going to get destroyed. So what we are doing today will automatically fit into a new future tomorrow. So by innovating, we are transforming things around us. Right? So we're going to, what is biomimicry? Biomimicry is inspired by nature. The practice of adapting nature's best ideas to the invention of sustainable technologies for people. So simple. Nature is 3.7 billion years old. It has worked out the solutions. It has every known solution sought by man. The question, therefore, is all we have to do is to copy nature. Copy is not a negative word. Copy is actually emulate nature. Copy is look at nature, learn from nature, and start. So the one line that you remember, if you don't remember anything else at the end of this presentation, one line you remember is biomimicry is not learning about nature. Biomimicry is learning from nature. So don't keep admiring nature all the time. I'm not saying it's wrong. Don't keep admiring nature all the time, but it's time for us to wake up and say, what can I learn from nature? So what is biomimicry? I'm sorry about this definition. It's not a long definition. If you think about this definition, this is what this entire program is about. It's conscious emulation of life's genius. Look at the words I'm using, okay? Conscious being intentional. I intend to, I want to, I'm willing to. Emulation, learning from living things, then applying those insights to challenges humans want to resolve. You will see now, you'll see in the next 15 minutes, the amount of challenges that are being resolved because of biomimicry. Life genius, recognizing that life has arrived at well-adapted solutions that have stood the test of time within the constraints of a planet with finite resources. Look at the beauty in the sentence, right? We know the Earth's resources are finite, and many of the things that Earth has created has stood the test of time. Unfortunately, of course, we are destroying it. We don't learn about nature, we learn from nature. This is such an important thing. Look at the campus you're living in. It's all nature, right? I'm so ashamed of myself that I haven't really looked at nature inside the campus. When I get a chance to come back to the campus, the first thing I'm going to do is to just keep staring at a tree. I promise you that. You can come and join me if you want. So this is the examples of nature. Ants don't have traffic jams. There are HR systems in the world. There are traffic enthusiasts in the world who are actually looking at ants and finding out how ants never have a traffic jam, while human beings always have a traffic jam. So if the entrepreneur in you, it is time for you to wake up now and say, here is my opportunity. Any problem that I see in the world, I can go to nature and solve it using nature's principles. The first of I'm already giving you opportunities for entrepreneurship and biomimicry. Pigments and dyes used to create these brilliant colors. They hardly use any dyes, but still they create colors. And we use 750,000 types of pigments to create textiles, and we spoil it, we pollute the rivers, we pollute the atmosphere and all that. So what is the context of the Earth? The context is there's limited water, there is limited atmosphere and limited sunlight. This is the Earth's operating system, right? There's also gravity, cycles, and this is what the Earth is. That's all it is. So what we are learning is that there is limitation. Gravity, cycles, dynamic change, water, atmosphere, sunlight. So why am I presenting this to you? I'm saying, therefore, what are we learning? We're learning this is what it is. The Earth is building everything it can using these limitations. It doesn't go beyond these limitations. It doesn't complain. It doesn't come, I want more gravity, I want more water. It doesn't complain. It says, these are my limitations. I will build within the limitations. And it operates with these systems. So now look at this, okay? This is very simple. Biomimicry is one of the bio approaches. So you can have biomimicry, you can have bioengineering, bionics, biomimetics, biomorphic design, biophilic, all that you can have. You can also have bio-inspired design because it's part of that ecosystem of bio-inspired design. You find biomimicry. Okay, I'll give you about 10 minutes for questions. Don't worry. So whatever questions you have, let's ask. Just think about the questions that you may have. But this is important, right? You must understand that bio-inspired design is not necessarily biomimicry because they're not copying nature in the sense of biomimicry. They're just saying, you know, I put some green stuff on my wall. So using what nature is already using or copying nature is not biomimicry, or simply doing design just without understanding the abstracting principles of nature is not biomimicry. Why biomimicry? Because we can develop new products, processes, and systems or improve existing designs. We can help us shift our perspective, see design problems and objectives differently, and uncover new solutions to difficult problems. There is, of course, all of you know there's socioeconomic and ecological pressure in every one of us. Transformative innovation, we saw. We have to save the earth. Come on, for me, this is the most important word, in this whole 1 hour. And this is what Satya and I and Shiva have been constantly talking about for the last 2 months. How can every one of us save the earth? How can we be business people and still save the earth? If whatever I'm saying, if you're criticizing what I'm saying, if you're saying Shiva doesn't know, please, you cannot deny what I'm saying now. That here's the opportunity for us to save the earth with our engineering skills and our entrepreneurship skills. It makes a lot of sense because you're going to get support from everywhere. Now, a teacher with 3.8 billion years of wisdom is who you want, right? All you've got to do is find out how she does it. We'll come to that later. Satya, I and Shiva are learning enough biomimicry for us to teach you how to do the process of biomimicry. Just wait for 2 minutes, please. Do we have a choice, right? Do we really have a choice? If you look at the UN Sustainable Goals, 17 goals, you will find every one of those goals are around we don't have a choice. And one of the opportunities for biomimicry in the world for you is to look at the sustainable goals and build a product or a process or a system around that. I'll come to that later. I'll also come to the UN Sustainable Goals. That is one of the challenges that we are going to float in the next 2 or 3 months. Satya and all of us are deciding that the subject of our challenge will be the UN Sustainable Goals, which means that every one of those goals we're going to address with biomimicry. Core elements of biomimicry is to imitate the technology of nature. Ethos. Ethos is such a powerful word, right? Ethos is the underlying aspiration behind something. Life creates conditions. So therefore, what is your aspiration is what ethos is, right? So biomimicry's aspiration is to create life conducive to life. Biomimicry does not create and waste. Biomimicry creates and recycles. That's the intention of biomimicry. And reconnect is the effect of biomimicry. What happens? Establish the bond between humans, which is what all of us are trying to do. Why are we here today? Because we are saying, how can we be soldiers of nature? How can we establish a bond between humans and nature, right? And what we want to do, therefore, in IIT campus is to bring together all these people. We want to bring together biologists, engineers, designers, and businesses. Like I was telling Satya, you see, from my context, I think all of you know me very well by now. I'm not a technology person, but I'm looking at myself as someone who can bring all these people together. Because I know that a lot of labs in IIT Madras which are doing some great work around Satya himself is doing some work on biomimicry. It's not as if people are not doing, but we need someone. We need someone to bring everything together. So what are we mimicking? We're mimicking form. So therefore, we are saying, there's this great example, or this is a solar panel. So the form is imitate a function. The function of a leaf is to capture sunlight. Can we imitate the form? For instance, process. So nature has the system, a mangrove system, where mangrove forest, where it cleans water. The kidneys in your body clean inside the body and remove the dirt. So there's a process. So we can imitate the form of nature. We can imitate the process of nature, or we can imitate an entire system of nature, where we create an ecosystem just like nature creates. So now, in your entrepreneurship mind now, ask yourself where you want to go. Do you want to be an entrepreneur who creates form, who wants to create process, or who wants to create a system? For instance, our Kuam River, right? Many of you who are residents of Madras, if you want to serve Madras, please look at how nature cleans water and use that principle to clean the Kuam River. And don't think I'm talking in the air, because there is a very, very powerful company in the US called Todd Technologies, who is actually trying to make water sanitation systems using biomimicry. To all of us, who does not in this group know about the story? Which is why I put this story up in spite of it being so common, because we know the story, right? We know that the Shinkansen train, the engineer who was looking at the train had a big challenge. He said that the train was going at 300 kilometers and more, but when it used to pass through a tunnel, it used to make a huge noise because of all the, the air pressure and all that. And he was and everybody was complaining, saying very big noise. Now this is where his strength as a bird watcher came into force, right? He was looking at birds and suddenly he saw the kingfisher, and the kingfisher had this great habit of after this program, please look at a video of the kingfisher. It dives straight into the water. It's called the splashless diving. So he asked himself, can I combine the technology of a kingfisher with that of a train? And he built the nose of the bullet train is designed after a kingfisher. And it apparently makes 15% less noise and uses less energy. So we will learn later on, this is called what is called a challenge to design problem. You have a challenge, you look at biology and solve the challenge. This is my favorite example. Every one of you who has attended my class on creativity know this, right? This is again a challenge to design problem. Mick Pierce is an architect. He got a project. He was told to construct a building in Harare. Harare is a very hot place. He was also told to use minimal air conditioning. Now, any architect worth his salt would have left that project saying, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But fortunately for the world, fortunately for us, Mick Pierce was also an ecologist. He loved termites and he was constantly studying termites. So when he tried to combine termite, he looked at termites and said, how does a termite maintain temperature inside its tomb? And therefore he found that they have intricate systems of tunnels wherein they maintain the temperature, and he imitated I'm using the word purposely, emulated the design process. I'm using the big words now, okay? I want to move away from fuzzy stuff to real big words. He used the design process of the termites and imitated that process into the Eastgate building in Harare. Look up the Eastgate building. Which means, what are we learning? We're learning biomimicry is a serious science. It is not just talking in the air. You will have to actually study the termite mound. You will have to find out how the termites do it. The termites have a process. You have to abstract the engineering principle there, bring the engineering principle and put it in the building and use it. And if you go to the website on Eastgate building, you will have all the engineering details you want, right? And we're talking about a very strict, very powerful process, which is why for me personally, biomimicry makes sense to all of you, because every one of you learns engineering in the classroom. All you have got to do is now translate that learning into something useful for the world and make money for yourself and everyone else. This is again a fantastic, this is called what is called biology to design. The previous one was challenge to biology, right? I have a challenge, I look at nature and solve the challenge. Here it's just it's not the opposite, it's a different, it's challenge, it's biology to design, which means that what happened was, it's called the whale power technology. So the whale power, the fan and the turbine blade, it's called, you look at those small ridges, right? That the whales apparently have tubercles, tubercle, tubercles. Tubercles help the whale to swim in circles, and it helps the whale, if I may use the word, it helps the whale to grip the water, GRIP, grip the water. So a person was looking at the whale's tubercles in a museum. I think his name is Dr. Fisher. And he said, wait, why can't I use it in my design? And then he studied the tubercles and used it in fans and turbine blades. And you won't believe what happened. the fans and turbine blades the fans could generate more wind power, and the turbine blades, in spite of very little amount of wind, would still turn around because of those tubercles. So look at whale power, Google whale power, and you will be able to find out what I'm saying. Eco machines, again, like I told you, this is the Professor Todd who is making sanitation systems using microorganisms, etc., to purify water. It's chemical free, wastewater treatment inspired by wetland water ecosystems. Look at this, okay? This is an entire ecosystem now. It's called the industrial symbiosis. Kalundborg is in Denmark. What they do is they have an entire village called the Kalundborg village, where every industry uses something that the other industry wastes. So therefore, I don't have to spend time and money and resources on resources, and I waste very little. So it's a very nice system of industrial symbiosis which is being created. Maybe one of you, maybe some of you, all of us can do this in IIT Madras itself, right? Can we create a symbiosis on the campus? So I want big now. I want you to think like huge people, right? Because you have to save, you have to do, you are capable of doing a lot of things, which is what we saw in the hero's journey. This is what I said, right? So the function, so this is a very, I'm not going to get technical here, but I will get technical when I teach the course. Right now, look at this saying the leaf. On the right side is the leaf. The leaf is nature's, is designed by nature. Its function is to capture energy, and it has a strategy by which it captures the energy. Now, if you are an entrepreneur and biomimicry person, you will look at what the leaf does, and you will build a solar panel to do what the leaf is doing. You'll understand the function of a leaf, you'll understand the strategy of a leaf, and you link it to your design. So that's why it's called, biomimicry is called the bridge between nature and design. The bridge here consists of function and strategy. So look at how nature is using technology, right? Why do some seeds have wings? To catch the air. They have to catch the air, so they have wings. Why does the moth have antennae? To sense chemicals in the air. And can you therefore build an antennae for sensing smell, for sensing a bomb, for sensing something? Why do pencils have erasers? So that's what we do in design also, right? It's not as if only we also do the same thing in design. I'm just talking about the parallels. I'm just going to hurry up a little because I've got about 10 minutes more for the questions. So you look at nature, biology to design, that's what I say. This is the process. This is what you will learn in the biomimicry course. If any of you is interested, we can start teaching, we can start lecturing you straight away, whenever you're interested. But this is very, very simple. They're only, like any other good system, it's also got process. So discover, explore, create, evaluate. That's all. These are the 4 processes we will learn. How do we discover? How do we explore? How do we create? How do we evaluate? Similarly, what we learn, challenge to biology, is what you will do is explore first. You just swap, explore and integrate, explore and discover, explore, integrate, discover. That's all you do. So it's the same process. It's just a little different. Don't worry about that. We will teach you all that. What are the opportunities for entrepreneurship? Challenge to biology. That's what I think most of you will go after. You will see a challenge in front of you. For instance, if you're working on something, let's say you're working on building shoes for the military, you'll probably look at nature and find out, how does nature not hurt itself? How does a coconut which falls from the tree does not get damaged, right? So now your whole mindset is starting to change. You're saying, I have a challenge, but why don't I look at nature? Why don't I look at what nature does for this? Because nature, you will see, does everything that you're trying to solve. And I'm not joking about that. Biology to design, that's what we saw. These are the opportunities. So therefore, you can walk around campus from now on. Look at the opportunity for entrepreneurship, right? You have to take a walk. Taking a walk around campus makes you an entrepreneur. You see a tree and go back to the whale technology. You see a tree, you see something in the tree and build it in your lab. Incremental, this is what, I'll come back to this. Look at all the designs that are happening in the world. Look at all the designs. Find out if you can add a biomimetic principle to that. Look at the fan sitting in my room. Can you put tubicles in my fan and increase my fan speed? Satya and I, favorite topic. Okay, we have done nothing in the last 1 week except talking about this. What are these things in the world that are causing harm to the environment? So I said air conditioners. Satya actually corrected me. He said, Satya, you want to quickly say what it is instead of air conditioners?
It's comfort. I mean, air conditioners is one way of achieving comfort. So what does really living in comfort mean? Because if we stick to air conditioners, we generally only stick at the devices that we have. So we have to go back and look at how the organisms are evolved to live in comfort.
Yeah, and you also talked about building, Satya. That's why I included it.
Yeah. So one of the bigger challenges that's coming up is we generally look at affordable housing. And affordable housing, when we say, we immediately think of 100 square feet space and really cramped locations of the city. The challenge with that is those are the people who need affordable housing. Those are the people who needs to be within the city, and the quality of housing or the quality of places you live directly affects a lot of things that happen subsequently in life for each and every one of them. So we really have to look at how it fits in with the way people are supposed to function. So when she was mentioning air conditioning and internal combustion engines and housing, so the way I interpreted it as really the human comfort and mobility. So these are the two aspects. Human beings want to live in a very comfortable place, which has the ability to transform their thought process, reduce irritations, make them more productive. We all know that. I mean, if we have a good quality environment, we are obviously more productive. At the same time, transportation, instead of a better IC engine, it is more about better mobility. What does it take for me to move from one place to the other so that it is the most efficient way to do that? So that's the way we want to look at the problem rather than looking at it from an existing technology perspective.
Yeah. Thank you, Satya. And therefore, the question now you ask is, and I'm not going to do this for you, right? Satya and I are not going to do this for you because it's your duty to the world. You look at nature and find out how nature cools itself. You look at, and you already got an example in the termite mound. You look at nature and find out how nature makes buildings, how nature constructs. You look at nature and find out how nature makes engines. You can, this is one big thing, okay? At the end, where if you join the community, if you join the club, I'll give you a list of at least 50 companies right now I have data on that are doing things on, but it's apparently a multi-billion-dollar industry. Multi-billion-dollar industry, biomimicry, okay? And therefore, many of you who could write as a team to an existing biomimicry company in the world and say, can we collaborate with you and bring that technology to India? And I'm sure you can. Now, looking for simple solutions is something that's very exciting. When I was talking to Satya Chakravarti, and he brought in this word of, he said, Shiva, why don't you talk about incremental innovation? So one of the challenges is apparently in Kenya, there is a small, there are these very, very poor people who are fitting mobile chargers to their cycles. It's about, I think it costs about $4 or $2. It's where every one of you who's an engineer in here can make that. So my suggestion was, can we make the charger on campus whenever we can go back and give it to every student? And whenever you want to charge your mobile phone, you take that and you go around the campus, cycle around the campus and come back to your room. Instead of, why I am saying this, I will tell you very soon in one of the slides. So this is such a simple thing, right? Such a simple thing. You get exercise as well as you charge your phone. And if you go to Google, any one of you go to Google, you'll make that device in the next 2 hours. And again, I have been speaking to my team at TCS. All of you know I'm from TCS. We have a We have an alumni association in TCS, and we've been speaking about this, and they are very excited about biomimicry. They are saying, how can we support? So almost every company which has got a CSR will support you because you are doing something for nature. There can be a lot of government. I don't know, Raghu, of course, is here. He can tell you later on about how much support the government can give you. Now, this is my final slide. Look at this, okay? It's called the nature's unifying patterns. Now, this is my favorite. I can talk all day long on this. These are the principles that nature uses for itself. The first one, nature uses only the energy it needs and relies on freely available energy, which is exactly the example of the mobile charger. When I'm cycling around the campus, I'm creating energy. Now, why should I go and plug my charger to external energy when I am creating energy myself? And why can't I use that to charge my phone? First principle of nature. Nature recycles all materials. So this is what I said is the opportunity for entrepreneurship, because now if you can look at the products around us and say, can I take the second principle of nature and apply it to that product? Can I make it recycle, make a recyclable product? Nature is resilient to disturbances. Each of this is a long story, a lot of examples behind it. I don't have the time now, but if you're interested, I will talk to you all day long on every one of these principles. Nature tends to optimize rather than maximize, uses the resources it has instead of constantly wasting resources. It's also linked to systems thinking, where you control the flow in a particular place, in a particular tank, in a particular water dam, etc. Nature provides mutual benefits. There's a beautiful video. You know, if only you join the club, I promise that only you join the club, I will lay open my entire database on biomimicry, which I've been working on. There is a beautiful video by Sir, what's his name? That famous naturalist. He makes a video of a sloth, and the sloth climbs down the tree very slowly and defecates on the ground and goes back. And he says that the defecation is simply because the sloth is telling the tree, thank you very much for giving me shade. Sir Attenborough, yes. So thank you very much for giving me shade. Here is my my way of helping you helping you with your nutrition. Nature runs on information. Nature uses chemistry and materials that are safe for living beings. Nature builds using abundant resources, incorporating rare resources only sparingly. So we don't sit down and go back. All this, I don't know how many of you like this, but battery technology is about depleting the nature of its resources, right? So why should we do that? Nature is locally attuned and responsive. Nature uses shape to determine form. I will explain all this. We don't have the time to do this now. And finally, of course, these are the two slides these are the two things I want to talk about very quickly. This is where I think this whole program. Yeah. So this is what it is. Look at the amount. Look at this website, please. If you can please look at this website at the end of this program and tell us why is it that everything is here. Okay. Look at the solutions that young people have built, right? The moist brick. Look at the solutions here. Every one of them are solutions that young people have built. It's also got what is called the Biomimicry Challenge. So this is what we are trying to do, organize in IIT Madras. So it's called the Youth Design Challenge. So it talks, when we get to the challenge, I'll tell you, I'm just telling you, inspiring you to look at the website. And it's also got, and if you go to the resources, you will have the Biomimicry Toolbox. And this is where I got all my material from. It's got everything, the process, introduction to biomimicry, core concepts of biomimicry, methods of biomimicry, references, toolbox, everything is there in this. It's called the Biomimicry Toolbox. There's also something called Ask Nature, which is you can actually ask nature to solve your problems. There is something called, Ask Nature. There's something called a taxonomy, which is, you will be amazed that you just have to go to asknature.com and put in a problem, and Ask Nature website gives you the solution. You just say, how does nature store water? That's all you have to say, and it gives you the answer. So it's called asknature.com. So almost every one of you is grappling with the challenge. All you've got to do is go to, of course, there's a way to do this. I can teach you how to do that, right? And finally, going back to the presentation. So this is the lady she's called Janine Benus. I've been in touch with her. I've been in touch with her team, and she's the one who started this entire revolution, who started this entire movement. She lives in the US. She's part of many boards, and most people, she's a very good speaker. She's written this great book and called Biomimicry Innovation Inspired by Nature. So I have almost come to, yes, I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you. I have about 7 minutes more. You can ask me questions. I'm not promising that I'll answer every one of them, but I'll store the questions. I'll keep the questions so that I can give you the right answer when I can. Yeah, so I'm back on screen now. Hi.
Okay. Hi, Shiva. Thanks a lot.
Any questions, Satya? And also, if you have registered,
so the floor is open.
If you want to start the community, how do they do that, Satya? Now they can write to us, right? They can write to Ashwath.
Yeah, we can, and Ashwath will coordinate the activity. We can subsequently.
Yeah. So, any questions, please? We need at least one question here. Come on. And don't see, all of us are learning together, okay? There is no threat over here. Nobody knows anyone more than anyone else. Every one of us wants to work for nature.
So Shiva, I'll start with a question which I always have a problem with, which is how do we ensure that we don't stick biomimicry into the solutions we have already thought of? How do we ensure that we are true to the process and we don't already know the answer and just go back and stick biomimicry to it?
I think you should answer the question, Satya, please.
I should answer your own question. No,
yeah,
Shiva.
Yeah, I know you know the answer. Go ahead, please.
No, I really don't know the answer. There's a problem with all methods that I use, that I face with. So I already I'm stuck up with an answer. I'm just trying to see, can I find support?
So what I would suggest is, I said we go with a fresh mind, right? Like you suggested, we look at the problem with a completely different perspective and extract the, if it was given to me as a creativity problem, then I would go back to the problem, extract the principles of the problem, and look for alternative solutions in biomimicry. That's what I would do. And in a way, you answer that question because you talked about the air conditioner, because the concept of the air conditioner is how does nature move air? So therefore, if I want to create a new way to move air, instead of creating an air conditioner, I go to the taxonomy. See, I'm going to be very methodical in this, okay? Satya, I think we don't have to dilly-dally, we don't have to become fuzzy at all. Now, I go to asknature.com, I put in the question, how does nature move air? I get the answers to about 7 or 8 things in nature that move air, and then I build my technology around that.
So Raghu has responded saying, why is that a problem if I already have a solution? Nature has just validated. So Raghu, I agree to a certain extent. The only challenge is that it closes my mind to only one way of looking at things, which means I'm precluding a lot of probably inspiration or opportunities to look around. So that's the reason why I was asking, how do we put in a process? Though we might have a solution, we might end up at the same solution. Lazy innovation is a casualty. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, good one, Raghu.
Anybody else? Jubin has a question. How do we encourage this way of thinking in our team? That's what we want to teach you, Jubin.
Yeah, Zubin, great question. How do you encourage such? Why don't we start? The first thing is to join the community, Zubin, and don't be in a hurry, please, because next week I can probably show you my certificate. I have been struggling with biomimicry for the last 2 months. I've been spending day and night learning about it, but that's because my motivation is to put my name in posterity. So the first thing is join the community, and then everything comes together. And I tell you what, engineers will take to biomimicry like a fish to water, because you're learning the same thing, Zubin. Whatever you're learning in the classroom, nature is already doing it. Believe in that. Once you believe in that, you can extract the principles of nature. I can teach you all the processes and everything. And we have some very important people in IIT Madras. You don't know, you have to discover the people. You speak to every one of the profs. Every one of them will talk to you about biomimicry for hours on end. You just have to prompt them to do that. Satya will talk to you about biomimicry for the next 2 hours if you want. Many of the projects he's doing is around biomimicry. He keeps talking about energy and heat and waste and all that. You just have to be willing to do it. Remember the first slide? Willingness. Don't worry about the help. The help is all we can give you. Any other question, please?
Hello, sir. Karan here.
Yeah, 1 minute. Akash Anand has asked a question, Satya.
Yeah. So biomimicry ideas have been around for a while. Why has the industry been slow in adopting biomimicry solution? For example, why is the innovative building cooling system not more widespread?
Yeah. Tell me why.
So, Anand, Akash, you might have the answer yourself. Change, unless there is a sufficient enough pain point or sufficient enough people who has already done the change, it is a slow process. So that's the reason why more and more people like us need to be aware and see wherever it has to be fit in. Obviously, you don't want to fit something without context. If it is a natural choice, you really want to push it and adopt it. It is not a question of, and this is the next new fad and everybody should be doing it. So it is a question of how it fits naturally within the flow of our ecosystem.
Yes. Also, I'm not sure whether the industry is really looking at biomimicry. I tell you, Akash, I have a lot of. I've been speaking to so many people. Okay, I don't think. Yes, biomimicry has been there for a long time, but it's wrong to assume that the industry is adopting it. Many people who I'm speaking are not even aware of biomimicry yet. So I'm not sure about the assumption there. Yeah. Okay. Final question from Karan, and then we.
Hello, sir. Karan here. So we are attempting to solve the mobility problem, intra-city mobility problem. So what aspects of nature can we take a look at?
So I don't have the answer here. Naturally, I mean I'll be a liar if I have the answer. But I'm saying the first thing is to trust that nature has an answer. Go to biomimicry.org, go to asknature.com, examine that entire website and look for the answer there. And what the website will give you, what the Ask Nature taxonomy will give you is various alternatives on how nature solves your problem. Extract the principles of nature and put it here. And one last thing before I go, it's not necessary that you have to imitate nature's design. For instance, there is this beautiful animal in the desert called the Navi Beetle, Nabi, N-A-B-I-B. And Karan, this is for your answer, okay? This is just to help you understand. It's called the Navi Beetle. The Navi Beetle is in the desert. It has ridges on its back. Look at the beauty what it does. Okay, I don't know how it does it. I don't know where the engineering came from, but these ridges help to, the fog in the mist in the morning in the desert. It converts that mist into water, and the water goes straight into the mouth of the beetle. What engineers are doing at Harvard, I think, yes, Harvard, are building a human flask, a flask for human beings using the beetle. So if you're walking in a desert, you just have to keep the flask overnight and it will collect the water and give you water. The why I'm telling you this example is because it's not necessary that the design that the biomimicry, the flask doesn't have to be designed like a beetle. You pick up the abstract, the principles and translate it in your design. So in answer to your question, Karan, you may be surprised that you may want to change the entire way you are talking about mobility, right?
Right.
And I can guide you with the Ask Nature. I'll give you the website and all that. You look at it and then you find out if you have the answers or not.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thanks. Anyone else for last comments?
Sir, there are 2 additional questions over there in the comments, in the chat.
Yeah. How do I? But
I'll read them out. What is the difference between biomimicked and bio-inspired? And the 2 terms are used pretty loosely.
I don't see too much of a difference in those two.
So bio-inspired is a very broader set of, you can call it as a superset. Anything that you can take from and be inspired from nature. Biomimicked is a more
Biomimicry.
yeah, it's a carefully curated process where you take inspiration and then fine tune it further. I think it's a subset, I would rather say.
Correct. Okay, final question, because with respect to time and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, there was one more question you said.
By the examples of biomimicry, there are all optimizing something which is more of incremental innovation than disruptive. What are your views?
More of what innovation?
Incremental than disruptive.
Yeah, that's what we are saying, right? Which is why we are going to nature, because there is no disruption. I don't know about the answer about the disruptive innovation, right? I'm not sure whether disruptive innovation is desirable at all.
No, Shiva. What I was talking is that you are saying transformative innovation, which involves disruption in a sustainable way. So
No.
transformative.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So transformative is a combination of disruptive come sustainable innovation. So that is what I meant. Like you were talking about the transformative innovation that might be happening through biomimicry application. But by what examples I see is it is more of optimizing something, like you're optimizing ventilation, or you're optimizing say wastewater management. Most of the examples or all of the examples were like that. There was not something of like transformative innovation that I saw.
Okay. So the connotation of transformative innovation here is that when all of us do biomimicry, we are transforming our entire lives around biomimicry, and therefore preparing us for a new future. That's what the transformative there means. It doesn't really apply to the innovation process itself as much as to what we are doing by way of innovation if we follow biomimicry. Right? So go back to the UN Sustainable Goals. 30, if all of us achieve those goals, what would we have done for the world? We'd have transformed the world in the way we look at things. Because right now we're saying it's a very linear process. Biomimicry is a very circular process of innovation. And we will talk about it when we have the opportunity. But thanks for the question.
Thank you, Shiva.
Yeah.
So I think with that, we'll close this session for today. And I think most people have been inspired, if not all. And that's a wonderful introduction, Shiva. And I request all of you to get in touch, whoever is interested, so we may form this community and move forward. Look forward to the announcement on launching of this course, ID 5200 most probably, on Introduction to Mimicry. With that, thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon.
Sorry, Satya?
Yeah?
Ashwath, you have email ID of all the people who attended today?
Yes, he has.
I'll circulate a form.
So you know, because people who are not part of Nirmaan may attend today, right?
Yeah. So I'll circulate a form immediately after this.
Tell them right away your email ID so they can write to you.
So what normally Ashwath will do is upload the recording on YouTube and then share it with the entire campus community. Along with that recording, we will submit a sign-up form.
Okay. In case you need to say, just all of you know Ashwath, right? So just write to Ashwath.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thanks, Satya, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Bye.
And thanks, Nirmaan, for the inspiration. Yeah. Bye.